Hi, everybody. I'm Mike Sinisi. I'm the executive editor for Make Magazine, and I am super excited to be part of this discussion today where we're talking about YouTube and making. And we've assembled a really great group of standout YouTubers, people that I look up to and enjoy watching week after week, day after day, for all of their great output and incredible lessons that they've helped share with the world. And really, when we talk about YouTube, that's one of the things that I find to be one of the most interesting elements of it. It's become this incredible platform for sharing skills and for sharing the work that that people are doing. And it's been awesome to see since it launched in 2005 how the YouTube community, or the maker community itself, has taken this platform and turned it into something that is really super effective and has become this just phenomenal tool and great outlet for learning and for entertainment.
Yeah.
And so with that, I'm excited to talk to this great group here to hear about how everybody got started, what type of things they've learned along the way, and to help give some advice to those of you guys who are watching right now to help you get started if you're interested in doing a YouTube channel of your own, or if you just have questions about some of the build skills or video skills or anything else that's in there. So those of you who are watching on all of the different channels that we're broadcasting on right now, be sure to send your questions or your comments into the chat windows. We'll be watching for those, and we'll help route them to all the different panelists here. And so let me do a real quick introduction. I'm gonna make my way around my screen here. I've got my grid window open. We've got Bob Clagett from I Like to Make Stuff. We've got Ben Paik from Woby Design, Sarah Fogle from Ugly Duckling House, David Picciuto from Make Something, Jamie and Jay from Wicked Makers, Jimmy Diresta from Jimmy Diresta, my colleague Caleb Kraft, and Mehdi Sadaghdar. How do I say your last name? I want to make sure I say it right.
You typically don't say it, it's too hard, but
okay.
If you decide to say it, it's Sadaghdar.
Okay, great. From Electroboom, who everybody knows.
Yeah.
Super fun and engaging channel. So thank you everybody for being part of this. Thank you everybody for watching this. And let me throw out a real quick question for everyone. How, if someone were interested in getting started on YouTube as a maker, what do they need? What do you need to get started? And I'm gonna put that out just broadly, and I will let, it looks like Jimmy's got his hands up. I'll let Jimmy take the first crack at this.
Yeah, I would say, and I think everybody would agree, a lot of new YouTubers overthink their first video. They think this video is going to establish their career forever. Just start making videos. Don't even think about it. You really will begin to develop a style after 10, 15 videos. Those first couple of videos are going to maybe be emblematic of, you know, the people your favorites are, or just very practical and very straightforward, maybe too chatty. Just jump in. Don't think about what a style is until you made 10 videos. That's my opinion.
Yeah. So would you say you should just make those 10 videos and throw them out, not even let the world see them?
Leave them up. It's fun to watch where we've all come from. I mean, I think most of us keep our videos up from the beginning. I know everything pretty much. I've never even deleted a video. I did by accident that had like 80,000 views, and I was like, what? That was an accident. I reposted it again, but no, I never delete anything. And yeah, I don't think anybody else should too. I mean, unless you really feel strongly about it, then do what you want.
See, I kind of have a different opinion. I've always told people when they ask about starting, I always tell them to shoot their first video with the intention of not putting it out, because that takes the pressure off of it being good, and you just get to try it. And if you know that it's not going to go out to the world, then it's okay if you stutter. It's okay if you drop things or whatever.
I can agree with that.
But you get the experience of doing it. And if it turns out to be good, then you can put it out. But if you don't plan on it, then you're taking a lot of pressure off of yourself. I think it's a good way to start.
Yeah. You could be like one of those first-time YouTubers. I've known several of them that they start making their first video and they actually don't finish it till like 8 months goes by. For some reason, you know, it's the type of thing that we do 1 hour a week. They take 8 months to do.
That's what happened with our first
primarily
video.
Because of the insecurity and, you know, self-doubt. That's really the main reason.
Yeah, watching my own videos, like the first videos I made, video quality, audio quality, none of those really matter. It's really the content and, you know. Like I would say, if you want to make your own video, like for me, I watch a lot of everyone else's videos every day and see what I enjoy about them, and I incorporate it in my own videos too. So like, if you want to make videos, just watch what everyone else is doing, and you don't have to like, it's not inventing the wheel from scratch. Just, you know, be yourself. See how everyone, in my opinion, has their own audience. So don't worry about it too much. But yeah, you can just make it and keep going and see how people react to it and give you feedback and improve it as you go.
I think got some great advice from April Wilkerson when before I started doing my YouTube videos. And she basically said, actually, don't watch other people's videos before you create your own, because then you might have that influence of their style in your videos. And it might take a little bit longer for you to find where your style lies. And I found that actually very helpful for when I was creating mine, because I kind of developed my own, I started kind of going, okay, this is what I want to present, rather than this is what everyone else is doing and feeling like I had to keep up. So I think that you could do it either by watching everyone's and seeing how you're different, or you could just try and jump in as yourself with just your phone and see how it goes.
Yeah,
I think with what Sarah is saying, that's the reason there is no playbook on how to do this, because everybody has a different approach. My advice is to, if you don't know where to start, try to make a video just like your favorite YouTuber. And that's at least going to give you a starting point. And if I was going to take up painting, of course, I'm going to go to my favorite painter and try to do what they're doing, because I am with who I am with my particular background, it's going to have my spin on it. And then as I do 10, 20, 30 of those paintings, my style is eventually going to come out. There is no playbook. So you just got to figure out what works for you and just dive right in.
Yeah, I would say, like, unless you're a super good actor and can mimic somebody perfectly, which like I'm not, just be yourself, just be yourself. But from watching other people's videos, you can understand how they edit, how the technical side of stuff works, right? Like I tell my friends to make videos and then I review them. A lot of times they leave a lot of unnecessary clips in the video, for example, or things of that sort, technical stuff. But if you can sort those out, other than that, just be yourself. People connect to who you are, and you'll have your own fans because of who you are and what you present.
So one of the things that I thought was really interesting, and I actually left out a very important note in my introduction, that a big part of this panel comes from the newest issue of Make Magazine. We did a big profile about YouTube and making, and had all of you guys in this conversation in the issue. And as I was talking to all of you and going through what it took to put together your channels, I learned some interesting things about some of the YouTubers came into starting their channels with a really strong skill set of making. And then there were others that came into it saying, I wanted to learn how to do some things, and decided to document that and make that stuff that I would put out. So really this journey of learning to make is what my YouTube channel ultimately really is about. And that surprised me, because I feel like when people watch YouTube, or watch any video, they have this expectation that the people they're watching are experts who've been doing this for years or decades. And so how many of you guys came into this with a background that you then brought to the video, and how many of you guys are doing this where you're learning on camera? And I think both are great, but what have those experiences been like?
I obviously had a lot of personal experience making things my whole life, but what's been great about YouTube is it's empowered me, especially Make Magazine and going to the fairs and stuff. It's empowered me to get into CNC. I talk about it all the time on our podcast, and that's me learning in public with things I've never done before. So okay, I could make stuff, but I've never used any computer programs or anything to make stuff before I got into YouTube. So that's been an extreme growing experience for me. And I did that all, in public view.
I mean, I think for me, it was kind of I had a base of certain things that I knew I was kind of confident in that I could do. And the skill sets that I was more comfortable in that I brought to it were actually like the video and the marketing sides of things, like the ancillary making, not the physical making as much. And so that stuff has been kind of comfortable since the beginning. And so the challenge for me has been, how do I take on these new like actual skills? So it's a little bit of both, where I brought something, but part of the journey is looking for more things that I don't know how to do and just trying to, you know, build arrows to put in the quiver just indefinitely. So.
Right. When we Jamie, I think you had some of that background on the marketing and the video side as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she has an awesome marketing background, and I have like a tech making background. So we combined our powers into YouTube. Mm-hmm. So that worked out really well for us in the beginning. But one of the things that I think it evolved into, which is really cool, been really cool for us, is like, as soon as we discovered that people don't mind and actually enjoy watching you do stuff that you don't know how to do that well, it sort of opened a door where we said, okay, you know, we don't have to be an expert. We don't really need to know what we're doing at all. We don't want to give people, you know, unsafe advice or poor advice. But at the same time, having the freedom to say, hey, I've never done this before. I've never worked with this medium. We're going to learn it together. And you guys get to watch us do that. That's been really, really special for us, because it's kind of opened up all these different doors for content.
I guess I would consider myself very much a beginner. And despite the fact that I've been blogging about DIY and home improvement for over 10 years now, I still consider myself a beginner, because every project that I'm doing, I am learning something new. Only now I've got a camera watching me the whole time. So, you know, at least with the blog, there's like the trial and error part where I figure it out and then I post about it. And this is more, you know, kind of catching my mistakes live, watching things fall that I didn't think to clamp down, all of that. So there's a lot of error that I'm showing on camera. And I am trying to kind of bridge that gap, though, for who I consider to be my target audience. Like, I want people who have maybe been too intimidated to try and take on this project before to have the courage and to see that it's very, very normal to have a period of time where you're trying to figure something out. And so it's not supposed to be, here's me and my authority and my expertise teaching you how to do things this one way. A lot of DIY is figuring stuff out. And it seems like I would be doing a disservice to my audience in particular if I just pretended like I was perfect from the beginning, because I know that I'm not, and I'm going to screw up. So I'd rather do that very honestly while I'm filming. But at the same time, you know, try and take out a couple of the more embarrassing moments where something fell or I spilled paint or whatever. But I think that authority is extremely important when you're trying to learn a new skill, and no one wants to do anything that's unsafe. But at the same time, I think that there's a very real charm to YouTube in particular that allows that divide to come together.
Yeah, I would even go and say that, like, it is even better to do things that you don't know. It's not like for example, if you watch my videos, I don't keep my videos clean. I intentionally go after ideas that I don't know how to do, because that way I can make mistakes. That makes videos interesting. It shows all the challenges in doing something, because, you know, if you just know how to do it, you usually do it very cleanly, and people that go try to do the same thing wouldn't know the challenges, wouldn't see the challenges, and would make those mistakes on their own, which could be dangerous. But like, if you do it not knowing and make a video showing all the challenges, I think it helps people more, and it makes for a better video too, probably.
Yeah, I think it's another great thing that also, when you're making these videos and you're showing that very human side of figuring out as you go, that you know, when you act as though you know more than you do, or you have that huge skill set and you're not really sure if you're doing it right, but you act as though you do. Like, if you make the video as though, oh, I'm the expert. I've never done this before, but I'm going to create a video that says I've definitely done this before. That dishonesty, you immediately get caught, because somebody is going to catch somebody with more expertise is going to catch that. It opens you to a world of criticism that otherwise just the honesty part, you know, it allows me to have a little bit of structure of going, hey, you know, I'm learning as I go. I get that, you know, some things are done a different way or done a proper way or whatever, or I may not even use the right terminology, but at least that allows me to shield myself against the kind of commentary that comes with pretending to have authority you don't actually have. So I think that that's also really important too, is that level of being very, very truthful with your audience.
That ties to something that we talk about internally, and we talk about this as an article idea for Make Magazine at some point, but the concept of imposter syndrome and how much that affects you. You know, it kind of go to the other side of it all, where you have to wrestle with feeling like you're just a phony. And I know that feeling. I think that goes out beyond the world of making. It goes out beyond the world of YouTube. It's something that everybody has to fight with.
I think what helps with imposter syndrome is the less you say, the better. If you're impostering something, just do it and don't talk about it.
During these conversations,
you'll get caught up in like a vocabulary or something. Then all of a sudden you're out it. So just keep your mouth shut and just do whatever it is you think you know how to do, and you'll be good.
Yeah, when we're talking about the imposter syndrome and the issues like that, another topic that comes up is, you know, we see comments a lot on videos where people say, you know, I wish I had this professional shop and these professional skills. Is there a point in time where you guys feel there's a transition from like a person who's figuring things out to a professional person who's figuring things out?
I share my own personal experience. So if I get tools from the king, I'm happy. You know, if I get a laser beam from space that could make my thing in my, I don't care. I let the fans just see what's available. You know, I get a lot of hate because I get a lot of free tools to test drive. But, you know, these are things I've always wanted my whole life, and now I have an opportunity to take them. I'm not going to take them because it's going to make somebody else feel bad. I'm taking them because it makes me feel good, and I could also show somebody, hey, look, this thing exists, and they go, wow, oh, wow. You know, some people will buy it without even blinking an eye. Other people will be like, I wish I had that. You know, let them wish and let me have fun. That's my theory.
I still don't know what I'm doing. I mean, I'm hacking my way through projects all the time. I don't know that I'll ever feel like I'm an expert at making any of this stuff because every project feels new. The only thing I really feel comfortable with is making videos. It's the actual editing and putting out the videos. That's the thing that I am always comfortable with. Like, the project could be total crap, and then I'm like, well, I can make a good video out of this. I know how to do that, but I don't know how to make the project every time.
That's really interesting. And a lot of you tend to make one item and then the video of that item. Sometimes you see like Jimmy will make 20 things because he has a client. I've noticed like Ben from Wobie Design, you made like all those camera arms, and I've seen you a few times in the past make like a whole bunch of these little geometric holder things. Are you making those to sell, or is it just the video that's the product, or what?
So when it comes to making like batching out products, I actually like doing that better because it kind of gives me more products for me to sell, as well as when I'm recording the videos, I'm going to be doing the same task 20 times so I could get 20 different shots. And I have literally like at least 300 to 400 gigabytes of footage for each project. And I can just pick and choose whichever footage I want to grab. And editing is so much easier for me, as well as, I don't know, it's just making one thing is it's really messy and I don't know how to organize my thoughts. But when I batch it out, I need to think in terms of production. So kind of gets everything lined up. So like I do everything in order so that I don't have to mess around looking for footage and trying to get the story right. And yeah, it just works a little better for me.
And you mentioned a ton of storage. Somebody in the YouTube chat was asking what you all do with all these bajillions of gigabytes of video.
My goal every video is to only record 45 to 60 minutes of footage. If I spend 2 days shooting something, I want less than an hour of footage. So here's what these things, everything gets saved on these Samsung T5s. They're nice and small. They don't need to be powered, and I can get a gig, like probably about 10 videos on each one. That's where all the footage goes. But I'm always trying to shoot as little footage as possible. Jimmy always says, come in late, leave early.
Yeah. I put all my movies on that. I have them in sequence. So from the beginning of time, I have about 15 of them from when I first started. And once it fills up, I just start another one. I write right on it, the dates, and it's just like a library book. So if I have to go back and find a video from a certain period of time, I'll look on YouTube to see the date I posted it. Then I'll know which hard drive to look in. And then I could find the footage that's sort of in that vicinity. And I have this, I always look to the future. I'm always anticipating a different platform, a different something, a different that, or maybe I could make a deal with a network where I give them all my hard drives and let some nerd edit stuff out of it. So I like to save everything. And what does it cost? I mean, I come from TV where it costs $250,000 to make a 30-minute episode, where what we do costs virtually free. If I could put 15 movies on a hard drive, that's free. So I just buy another hard drive and put another movie on it.
Yeah,
Jimmy, are you pointing to a hard drive in the background? Is that right there? Or
that pile of orange, they're Lycee, that right there on my, they're right there. It's not my hat. It's the pile of Lycee.
You're pointing to the cloud, but it's the heart. Okay.
Yeah. No, that's just that's like about half the pile. I think there's another pile right next to it going into space. So I buy the Lycee drives 2T at a time. I'm afraid to put it. I have like a 4T drive, and the more I put on it, the slower it goes. So I only buy 2T drives because I also don't want to have, I don't want to have a year's worth of footage on a drive and then that crap out. I'd rather have smaller windows with smaller bits of information on them.
Mm-hmm. Definitely save everything though.
I save everything. Like I said, if I save it
just in general,
sequence, it doesn't hurt anything. And then I lost. Oh, I was going to say, I never, ever lost. I never had a crash, knock wood. I never had a crash. I never lost a movie. I never, ever, I never had that, that horror story where you're halfway through a movie for a client and then it's complete.
Yeah, for me, it's the other way around. As soon as I'm done editing my video, I delete the whole thing.
Well, that works too. I mean, that works too.
Yeah, especially for me, because English is my second language. It's like I'm always having hard time getting the grammar correct and talk what I want to say, and I most of the time miss points. So I script my videos.
But that's part of your charm too. So
I keep repeating the same. Yeah, well, I keep repeating the same paragraph like 50 times, recorded 50 times until I get it right. So
could you imagine, like, if one of your fans got to watch you read that over and over again in like 5 years from now, how much fun that would be?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Mostly, like, I usually end up with 1,000 clips of 95% disappointment, and then 5% of what I want to put in my. Yeah.
So a question from one of the viewers, Chad Etzel, asks what the typical breakdown between your making time and your production time, the video production time. He's saying like Winter Gaton, it says it's about 70% on the video percent side. What do you guys find?
Yeah, the video takes a really long time just because it's like everything has to happen sequentially. And typically, if it takes a week long to make a video, for instance, every single night I come home, I download the footage and I throw it into the sequence. So when I'm done the last day shooting, whatever it is I'm working on, I only have that little bit of the video to finish. Very rarely do I wait to do it all at one time. I do, but most of the time I'll just start throwing things into a sequence as I'm building. In this way, when I'm at the end of everything, I'm also at the end of the edit. Helps. It helps lighten the load.
Does everybody else do it that way? Is that unique?
It's a little bit different than for me because like for me, it takes me at least 2 weeks to come up with an interesting idea, and like another week to script it. And then the video part is much shorter because I am ready to do it. So it takes a day or two to film and another day or two to edit. I'm not making many videos every month, I guess. But yeah, it's like, but a lot of other people, I understand it depends on the type of video too. So a lot of other people just document the process, know what they want to do, make it, and then edit afterwards. So the video making part of it can take like weeks sometimes.
Yeah, some folks are the kind of folks who have like a whole shot list that they like know either in their minds or they write it down what they want to capture, and then they just kind of make sure that all those shots are there. And some are more organic video film folks who just kind of try and get it from the background, try and get maybe one other shot, and then as you're doing the video or as you're doing the thing that you're making, you kind of come up with the concept of what the video is going to be about. Because sometimes I'll actually get a whole extra tutorial out of something small that I know my audience would probably appreciate, a very minute detail kind of thing, like cabinetry or whatever, and then iron-on edge banding, like a whole video out of just that. And so I'll take the extra time, even though I spontaneously never expected to film any of that really in great detail, but it creates a great extra video that I can throw in. So I think that, you know, it just depends on your style. I think it depends on your personal style. Like if it all goes back to that, like if you think that it's helpful and that you can create a great video out of it, just get that on camera too. I mean, I'd rather have the clips than not have them when I think of the idea later.
Yeah, that's why I save everything.
Yeah, it seems useful that way.
Yeah.
As far as other editing advice, tips, tricks, Figment's Made on YouTube is asking any tips on how to do editing faster.
Oh,
shoot tighter, and that's what
you
say. Shoot tighter, and that's what I do. Shoot tighter.
Usually editing takes me one day. I just start 9 a.m. and I'm usually done by 5 or 6 with the entire video. And I don't edit videos like video editors will tell you to edit, since what I do and what most of us do is very sequential. Everything gets dropped into the timeline. And since I only usually have like an hour of footage, I just watch it through and you learn the shortcuts. You're like in point, out point, delete, in point, out point, delete, go through the entire thing. Don't go back and start watching again. Just push your way all the way through that video. And then you go back a second time and then you clean it up a little bit. And then I figure out, okay, this part of the video is a little bit boring. Let's cut out the talking and just show some action. We'll throw some music in there and go from there. But I'm probably watching my videos like 15 times from beginning to end throughout that day. And the biggest trick is to save time is just shoot less footage. After you make 100 videos or so, you know what you want to shoot. I'm editing in my head as we're making this stuff.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you want to keep it like short enough to keep attention of the audience, but you don't want to miss any details that would add to your quality or content too.
Yeah. One other thing too, yeah, I think working in passes, like David suggested, is a really good tip. You know, do a full rough cut first if you can, and then kind of go back and layer in the additional things. Usually it'll get a little shorter each time. But also just learning the software really, really helps. You know, spending some time, go watch YouTube video. You know, if you're using Final Cut or Adobe Premiere, whatever you might be editing in, spending that time up front to really get familiar with that program and learn those tricks and, you know, hotkeys and shortcuts and all the little things, you know, those are in there to help you get faster and to make you more efficient. So spending the time to learn them helps a lot.
And pick that software from the beginning that you plan on sticking with, because learning all of that all over again is hugely time consuming. I'm going through that process now where the program that I was using to make my initial videos is just not cutting it anymore. So now I'm going to have to advance to something else. And I just really wish right now that I had taken that time from the beginning to put the investment in the software that I planned on using long-term, because now I'm going to have to learn all of the keystrokes again, all of the shortcuts that I already knew. And it's just, it's a delay that doesn't need to be there. So just from.
Sarah, what are you going from software wise? What are you changing from and into?
Well, I'm going from Camtasia. It was a program that I picked that was a little bit more advanced than the free stuff that's out there. And it's great. I mean, as far as a beginner piece of software goes, but over time I've realized that, you know, everybody kind of uses like Final Cut Pro or whatever. And I just kind of was like, why am I doing this completely differently when all of these great tutorials exist out there for me to learn these other programs? So I think I'm just basically, you know, cutting ties with using Camtasia, and now I'm going to go and learn this other program, and it's upside down. Like everything that I learned that I thought was intuitive, now everything's upside down, and I'm trying to adapt my new videos to try and, because now I'm actually adding another person to help me with doing some of the rough cuts and stuff like that. And it just makes more sense that if you're going to have extra help to do something that is more universally accepted.
I just, another bit of advice that I give a lot of first-time editors is people get overwhelmed by the amount of information that you obviously either shoot or that is in the timeline. I think it's important to just look at like 3 sections at a time, like three edits at a time, and then just start building up. Like I've said it a few times in my recent Instagram, I do these little Instagram educations, just edit 30 seconds at a time. Once you get, just worry about the next 30 seconds or the next few clips. A graphic design teacher gave me a really great piece of advice once about, say, for instance, kerning type. I'm looking for an example. I have pen refills. My teacher taught me just look at 3 letters at a time. Just look at 3 letters at a time and see how they're spaced. And that's a good way to try and get kerning. This was way before computers, but I think of editing the same way. I see how each 3 clips relate to each other and tell the story for what's coming up. And then I move to the next 3 clips. When I say clips, I mean little cuts, you know, 3 pieces of video. I look at each 3 pieces of video or each groups of 5 pieces of video and see how they make a sequence, even if it's a piece of a bigger sequence, you know, so how the in and out points of each one of those pieces of footage relate to one another. And then you start doing that. And then all of a sudden you're a minute past where you started. You don't even realize it. So it's like exactly what happens when you leave one image and what happens when you enter the next image. Just see how they relate to each other. And of course you want to make sure you're putting in pieces that tell the story.
I want to know how Ben edits his videos, because I've watched him shoot video and he just, the camera is just rolling for hours and hours. I don't know how you...
Yeah, I do completely opposite. So when I have so much footage, it's so much easier for me to edit. And because I picked the song first, I pretty much sit on the computer listening to different songs for 2 hours before I start editing. So I pick each song for whatever I'm doing. So my projects, every single project is usually getting the skateboards prepped and ready to go and gluing it up. So I want to have a music that's a little bit more chasing, a little bit more like a running pace kind of songs. So when I pick those songs and I start editing according to it, by the time there's certain times where I'm like in the halfway of the song or like I'm towards the end of the song. So I kind of have to adjust from there. Do I continue on with this song for the next day? Or do I just dedicate one song for one part of the task and the next task I move to a different song? So I honestly don't know what I'm doing, and I'm really when it comes to editing. So I can't really give you like a really good tip, I would say. I take a long time, much longer than David for sure.
Well, I think that's actually a really interesting thing because, you know, you talk to anybody who's been to film school, no matter what school they go to, you ask them about editing, there is a way to edit. But everybody here and everybody on YouTube is evidence that there is no way to edit. Like it can be done a million different ways, from a million different approaches, with a million different types of footage, with a million different outputs. Like, you know, Jimmy and I do things very differently, whereas my edits started kind of emulating his. And so, you know, I would look at the way he's talking about taking a few clips and working in little segments. You know, Ben's talking about taking a song or a segment. I think about, and I don't do most of the editing these days, but when we shoot things, my talking points are in these kind of rise and fall of the action of the video. And so you have this segment that is rise, and then there's a talking point, and then there's a fall, and then there's a rise and a talking point. And so each one of those little blocks is a kind of in-camera edit of the thing that needs to happen. And so we can hand off that edit to Forby, who actually does the editing, and he knows, well, there's a talking point. That means this is a sequence that we need to work together. And then he moves on to the next sequence, you know. So the awesome thing is that there's no right way to do this. You can come to it from any way you want to and still get something really cool.
So we've talked about the initial act of editing, but after you edit and put out a video, all of you are putting them on YouTube, at least that's what we're talking about. And if you've published videos on YouTube, you know that you can see detailed analytics and statistics on when people are watching and when they stop watching, and how many people looked at it and how many people clicked on it. So the question is, how much do you give credence to the analytics and data? Do you change what you're doing because of that information?
I can go first.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't do much. I just look at the bottom number, and I don't do much. All I know is if I make a book about printing or make a video about printing, it's not going to do well. If I do a video about CNC, it's not going to do well. If I do a video about welding, it'll do medium well. If I restore an antique rifle or make a knife, it'll do really well. That's my formula.
Yeah, for me, I don't really change anything based on analytics. It's mostly my after video entertainment, really. I just watch it to see where people like more, where people like less, but I keep doing what I'm doing, really.
Like I said, I'll still do printing. I'll still do, you know, videos that I know won't get a lot of views, only because I just think it adds to my catalog when people start using me as a resource for different disciplines. You know, if they start looking at my CNC stuff, all the numbers are low, but I'm not going to stop doing them. You know, some people will only focus on things that will bring them big numbers. I do whatever. I'm willing to.
I think you can fall into a trap of looking at the analytics, and especially the retention rates. If you look across a single video and you see like people started watching, they fell off at this point, you can easily overanalyze on that and be like, oh, well, that's the part where I like, you know, I grabbed my beard or something. People must hate beard. Someone's shaving my beard. You know, you can pick those things and start to make choices about what you do in the future. But there's so many reasons why somebody would watch your video in the first place, or why they would stop watching at some point. There's no way that you could know why. And so, I mean, maybe if you see patterns, you know, if like you scratch your beard in the same place every 10 videos and people fall off, maybe that's a thing. But I think it can be really easy to be super reactive to analytics in general. And I mean, just like everybody else is saying, you end up hurting yourself because you start changing what you would naturally do just to try to meet some fictional assumption, you know, based on the other people that are watching. And I mean, like even subscriber numbers, it can be like really easy to get in your head and be like, this number of people think I'm awesome. But I guarantee you there's a huge percentage of people that subscribe to my channel, not because they like me, but because they want to see me do something wrong or whatever the case is, you know? So like you just can't make the assumptions about those numbers like you want to.
I totally agree. I get too much in my head. If I look at numbers, if I look at analytics, all that kind of stuff, I find extremely intimidating, to the point where it might intimidate me so much that I won't make another video. And I don't want that to ever happen. So I just kind of turn away from a lot of that just to shield myself from it. But I also come from the blogging world. So I've been doing blogging and written tutorials for so long that it's kind of ingrained in my brain to go chasing the SEO part. And so I think that actually when I started doing videos, that was the one thing that I did kind of well, is that I knew keywords to search for. I wasn't scared about putting out a video that maybe didn't hit all the right numbers and stuff like that. And I just left it there. I didn't want to overthink it and overanalyze it. And I just left it, and it actually did really well. And I was really excited about that because it made me excited to do the next video and to do that again. So coming from SEO, that to me is kind of one of those things that, like, that's more about research and study, and not about like analyzing whether or not your hair looks a certain way that day. So there's less, it's less personal, but also, I mean, take into consideration some of the comments that you might get. I think those are more important than looking at maybe retention rates and stuff like that, because somebody who's a beginner might tell me, hey, actually, could you have slowed that one part down? Because I would have liked to have seen that in real time versus the time lapse that you did. And so I took that as really valuable information for the next video. when I wanted to make something new that was similar in that style. I was like, oh, okay, so that part might actually be better to film at regular length. So I think that those kinds of comments where somebody's giving you that feedback is very valuable. That's where I would be more considerate of what they say. There's
a danger in changing up your content based on analytics and what other people want. And at first, maybe that's going to help you get more numbers. But if this is what you do for a living and you are constantly making videos, you have to make videos that you really love making. Because once it turns into just the grind and the job, it is no longer fun. Your audience is going to pick up on it, and you're not going to put the effort into it that you had before. So it's important to know what your audience likes and what they don't like, but don't let that change who you are and what you do, because you are in this position because you're making what you want to make.
That's a really good point, David. Another question that connects to that, and this comes from one of the viewers, from Donald Bell. He's asking, after video is done, how do you guys promote it? What do you do to help generate the traffic? Let's say, not thinking about the SEO side of it, but do you go to Reddit? Do you go to Instructables? Do you go to Twitter? What things do you guys do?
Just Instagram for me. Twitter, maybe. That's it.
I used to have this whole checklist of things that I did after a video. I mean, it was send out the e-blast, post it on Twitter, post it on Instagram, then later that day, post again on Twitter and then Instagram, and then on these woodworking forums and all that. And to be honest with you, none of that works. I can't get people from Twitter and Instagram to get to the video. It just doesn't happen that way. There's not a lot I can do except for my email list. My email list actually does still work, but it's all about YouTube. It's more about thumbnails and titles than it is about promoting your video.
See, I mean, I would kind of agree, but kind of disagree with that. And if you've never listened to Making It, this is what we do. We go back and forth on these things. But I mean, so we take, a cut down of the final video and we make a version of it for Instagram, for Twitter, for Facebook. And incidentally, they just released a new version of Final Cut that will actually make those aspect ratio changes for you. So you can make those versions even easier. So if you're using Final Cut. But we found that having those little cut downs don't necessarily drive people to the YouTube video. I think they do some, but I think they bring a different type of presence to Twitter or to Instagram than you can have. I mean, like you could decide to just do your main video stuff on YouTube and then do something else on Instagram, and that's cool. But if you want people to recognize you as a video producer, having a cut down of the main thing on these other platforms at least shows them what they're missing by not watching it on YouTube. And I know that we've had some conversion from the Instagram group who just loves Instagram. They want to see more than the cut down. And so I know that has driven some people to the full video. I don't think it's like a 1-for-1 or anything, but I do think there's an advantage of posting some redirection on those other networks to the main piece of content, wherever it is. I think you just have to do it in a way that, just whets somebody's appetite and they want to go see the rest of it.
Brad from Fix This Build That, I remember him at one of the conferences saying the phrase, meet them where they are. And basically just the concept of YouTubers, people who like watching videos on YouTube are on YouTube, and they're going to find you on YouTube. So you're trying to make that content so that it's the most appealing to the person who's skipping around and watching videos on YouTube. You're not trying to necessarily drag your Instagram over to YouTube, and that's not the kind of audience. So I'm actually finding that to be pretty true. People who like written tutorials, for example, are not the video watchers. It's an entirely different audience that I'm reaching if I try and do both. So I'm trying to kind of keep that in the back of my mind when I'm making my videos and stuff, that I don't necessarily have that other platform that I'm going to be using or relying on to bring that audience in. So how am I going to make this appealing? Sorry about my dog. Sorry about that. We're all at home, right? And the other thing is just The one exception that I found is, well, yeah, while yes, email is very helpful, I found it very surprising that TikTok audience will definitely go to Instagram. They'll definitely go to YouTube. They'll go to another platform in order to see what you have. And I did not expect that at all. But that was just a surprising outlier of once I started posting on TikTok and saying, hey, this is over on YouTube, people were coming over and commenting that that's where they came from. So
wow,
that was surprising.
I think
that is a surprise.
It really depends on the platform. There's some social media platforms that don't drive people there, like Instagram, but like TikTok and Pinterest, we've had a lot of success with. And then also Instructables has given us a lot of success with helping with SEO and helping drive those video views up. So it really depends on where you're looking to promote it.
Yeah, and then I think to add to that, like platforms like Instagram they're a different audience. That was something that we discovered, eventually was I always thought of like, okay, we have these, these followers on Instagram. Obviously, all of them are the same people watching the YouTube video. So how do we get those people to know about it? And it's really not quite the formula. They're in a lot of cases, they're just totally different audiences. So Brad's advice to reach them where they are, if you're on Instagram, people want to see Instagram content, right? So, Bob's idea of taking your sort of main, keystone piece of content and slicing that up into various segments that you can distribute to Pinterest or to Instagram or TikTok. Honestly, TikTok kills. It drives so much traffic to YouTube. It's crazy. So that's a good one to explore. But yeah, there are some of them that work and some of them that don't. And I think Reddit is an interesting, like, I don't know, it kind of depends on what type of content you are. In some cases, Reddit can be massive. It can lead to like a viral video really quickly. And then sometimes nothing at all. It's very kind of one or the other on that platform.
I find Reddit too scary to post to. It's just, I don't want to go there. I just,
so mean.
They are.
I'm not interested in working that out. But if you are posting to all these different places, creating that content right at the end is something that I try and put into my schedule. And I rely on schedulers to do that kind of stuff because I'm trying to do all this by myself. So I create the Pinterest pin and I create the blog post and I create the Instagram clip, and then I create the shorter Instagram clip now that Reels exist. And I create all those different things kind of as a group. And then I kind of rely on something as far as what I consider a huge time saver is to put things on schedulers to like go out into the void of the internet at different times of day. Because some of those schedulers will actually know when there's peaks in your traffic or when people are more online, and that can be customized for you. It can learn, so it can post those things for you. And some of the platforms like Instagram are more hands-on, where you have to kind of be present and responding in real time. Some of them, like Twitter, you can just kind of put on a scheduler and just kind of mix into your normal tweeting habits. So don't, take time to kind of learn what schedulers are out there and which ones work for you. And I find that to be extremely helpful if you're just working by yourself.
And one thing I wanted to add is that, like, I think there are two types of content. One is that the content is searchable. You make something that is people's need. They want to do the same thing. They want to know how. They search for it and find it. The other type is not searchable, like you are doing something innovative but interesting. Those types you want to post it in websites like Reddit that people see it and vote on it and goes up. And the good thing about Reddit is that there are many different subreddits, different categories that one might match what you're making much better than the other ones. Like a lot of people that make videos tend to post their videos on video subreddit, but that's very general, right? You may not get very traction there, but if you find your niche there in subreddits, you post it exactly there, and it might not have too many viewers in that subreddit, but the thing is that the people that watch it are there for that content, so you will get much more traction there.
So I've got, and looking at it here, we've got about 10-ish minutes, and I've got a number of comments that have been coming in from the viewers. I'm going to shoot through these pretty quick so we can try to knock some of them out. So we'll go quick answers on these ones. John Thurmond asks, follow up for the very first question that we had about your first video that you post. For your first attempts, he asks, is it better to do some live streams or well-edited videos?
I would say live streams tend to have a shelf life. I mean, I know personally, if I go to somebody's video and it was a live stream 2 hours ago or 3 days before, I won't feel as entitled to, or as interested to watch it. It's just my own personal feeling. It's like you have to experience it in real time, otherwise it's stale. It's not true, but that's just the emotional feeling it leaves for me.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how I have not started consuming Twitch, but I know that Twitch is massive, and that's all live stream, and that's a whole nother world. That'd be another issue of Make Magazine sometime.
It seems, just to keep it quick, it seems to me like somebody like that question is basically trying to get out of doing the work. Now, I'm not trying to call this person out, but it's like, hey, can I just do a live stream and consider that a video? Yeah, you can, but it's not going to go. You'll never get a viral video that way.
Are you talking about this video we're doing right here as a live stream?
This is going viral because we're all in it. That's for sure.
All right. Next question. Makers that make videos of projects for clients, do you guys have to ask permission from the client to make the video out of it, or is it part of your contract that you can just go ahead and
it all depends. It depends. 99% of the time, people like know I'm going to make a video because they know me. One time I made something for Jimmy Kimmel. And I asked when I post the video, and I didn't even work with him directly. I worked through a friend, and his friend said, Jimmy doesn't want you to post the video, because I already made the video. When I showed it to him, like, do I have your thumbs up? And he said, I love the video, and I'm really glad you made it. Please don't post it because it'll give away where I live. And I didn't realize that, so I never did post that video. That's the only time. But besides that, every other client I ever work with said no problem. They kind of know it's part of the package, and they're excited about it.
Very cool. And that one came from Chad Etzel. One from Sam Freeman. What's more fun / playful, filmmaking or thing making?
Oh,
I enjoy the video making. I really do.
Oh, I think it's both, because you enjoy making something, but then when you make something, you want people to see it and enjoy it with you. So it's
capture the fun.
Question for Ben. Who is your favorite skateboarder and why is it Day One Song? This question's coming from Daniel Struffolino.
I'm not a skater, so people might be mad about this, but I don't know any popular skaters, to be honest. Tony Hawk, Paul Rodriguez. So I try to stay away from the skateboarding community just so that I'm not, making them look bad. So like, I just want to strictly say I'm all about making stuff out of skateboard, but I don't really follow the culture of skateboarding. I don't really follow that. So yeah, really unrelatable question, I would say.
Jay, you built a skate ramp. You built a half pipe in your backyard. And that video looks like it's doing pretty well for you guys too. Who's your favorite skater?
Rodney Mullen.
Nice. Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah, or Jamie Thomas. Another favorite.
Question in the YouTube chat here from Austin Pereira. Has anyone ever started an idea before you started shooting, you had an idea, and then by the end you had an entirely different video. It just went sideways.
A lot of the times. Yeah. That's why I don't really get too wrapped up in like a SketchUp model or anything. I like for things to unfold naturally from like a pencil sketch, because you have that surprise that you surprise yourself.
I'm about halfway through Bob's Fusion 360 video tutorial series. It's really good. I recommend everybody look into this. But that's one of the things that I like the idea of designing something and then taking that from the screen to the physical world. And I think it would be a good tool for that. But I could see how that could, like you're saying, Jimmy, you get locked into that.
I've done both, but most of the time it's more freestyle. But I've certainly have done, what a client exactly wants. They need to know exactly what they're doing before they pay for it. And so I've done that too.
Very cool. What do you guys think about bringing in help And then I'm going to tie this question together with something that's kind of separate but kind of related. The gear obsession element. You know, how much do you guys start looking at cameras and going, "Ooh, that's a nice one," because you could get the perfect S-log video file out of it.
I'm 9 years in, and I finally, for the first time ever, asked Jocko, if I'm going to spend a couple of extra dollars, what camera should I get? And that was yesterday. The first time ever. I just go from one cheap Canon to another. It gets paint on it. The lens stops opening. I just buy another $500 camera. It gets broken. It gets crazy glue in the button. I buy another $500 camera. I try Sony. I try Canon. But now I might spend a few $1,000s and buy something. The last big camera I bought was a Canon 80D for $900 off of eBay, brand new, with a couple of lenses and a bag from some random sales store. I bought David's old digital SLR years ago, used. That was the, like, for me, the entree point from a flip camera to a regular camera, a real one. But I'm just focusing on the content. There was a time in my life where I was focused on like exactly this, and then I was like, you know what? Let me just take that brain power, put it towards creativity.
And then for the others of you, the other part of that question, the part where you bring someone in to help start making videos, a camera person, an edit person, a personal assistant, who's got helpers at this point?
Once in a while, I think about like having someone edit my videos or, you know, do some of the work on the side. But then I realized, like I said, most of the time I spend is to find an idea. And so everything else is a smaller portion. So I never really felt need to bring someone else in yet.
So we have, it's kind of interesting because I have a team of 4, including myself, and one is remote. The other 2 are here in the office, and the ideas become a different thing when there's a conversation that happens. Like if I'm by myself, an idea can go down a certain path, and I rarely jump off of that path because I'm one person. I'm made of one set of experiences and whatever. And this afternoon, we started talking about something to build and put right there. And through the conversation, it turned into like 10 different things. And we started ripping apart the entire office and the hallway and all of the stuff. And everything is now moving around. And it was just because, oh, yeah, well, we could do this. Oh, yeah, well, we could do this. And half the ideas are things that'll never, ever, ever happen. But those ideas wouldn't have happened if I wasn't with a group of creative people who are really good at a specific thing, but all interested in the same thing. And so like, I am really blessed by the team that I get to work with, because it's just like this creative churn all the time. And I love it. It's awesome.
Yeah. That's what I'm missing about a group. I'm just at home.
Yeah. I say all the time, I miss working at the ad agency because we would get together and brainstorm, and I don't get to do that anymore. I mean, I do have one person come over, Dan, he comes over every week and helps shoot video, and he's great. He's also a woodworker, so he saves me from mistakes, and he's great to bounce ideas off. But that group session where you're just brainstorming and coming up with silly ideas, and those silly ideas sometimes leads to other silly ideas, which then leads to the big thing. But when it comes time to find help, you'll know it. You'll be past the point where you need help. And you'll feel the pressure, and you're like, I am not as good as who I can be because I am doing too many things. And that's when I brought in the camera person, which that takes off a lot of pressure. And now I have somebody in the shop when I'm filming, and so I'm actually talking to him. I'm not talking to the audience. And so it creates this different kind of weird, fun thing that's going on. And you'll definitely know when you need help, because you've already been past that point.
Is everybody here a full-time YouTube maker at this point? Or I guess maybe I should say, who isn't? And shout it out so we can see. I see.
I am.
We are not.
Jay and Jamie, you guys are not. Ben, I think you were saying in the past when we talked before that you are doing partial full-time, so I guess it's part-time, but
like a seasonal, like an auto show season. But right now with this quarantine, there's a high chance that I don't have a job for that. So this is gonna be fun now.
Full-time by COVID.
YouTuber.
Yeah. how is that going from when you make that jump into the full-time thing, and now suddenly you have to really think about how to make a living and make sure that it's bringing an income in? What's that like?
Right. Go ahead, David.
I want to say, it sounds overwhelming at first, but it doesn't happen overnight. You are building up your business or your hobby, and it slowly happens. And then you reach the point where like you start thinking about it. Like, ooh, if I, maybe if I cut down on Netflix and Hulu and all these other things, and I can maybe quit my job and do this thing full time. So it slowly happens, and I've always wanted to do that. I just didn't know it was going to happen. And then it just kind of picked up, and here we are.
Yeah, like you said, it takes a long time for me. It took like 6 years before it reached the point that I realized that I could first go part-time even for another year, and then be big enough to sustain myself on YouTube only. So,
I often tell people, think of like, I just did a little like live webinar on my own website. And I said this when somebody asks the same question, I say, think of it as a stream of income, and don't resent it as a job. Think of it as a stream of income, because the more streams of income you have, the more money you'll make. If one becomes more unmanageable versus the other, and it's extremely cutting into what you love to do the most, where the most money's coming from, that's when you really make the decision. But I'd say keep a second job or your first job as long as you possibly can.
yeah, it's not even a job. It's like a very great hobby, interacting with a lot of people, doing what you love, and you're making money out of it too. If it's big enough, it's big enough.
Sorry, I would just say.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Either one of us, but I would just say also, don't forget that, don't have just that one revenue stream. If you're going to do something like this, you need to focus on putting yourself out there in different ways, because something that was really, really good for your income yesterday may not be the way. And to get through something like this, like an unexpected COVID pandemic or whatever, and still try and keep all the stuff that you're juggling going. I mean, something might dry up, and it might happen very, very quickly, or rules might suddenly change and you can't use that revenue stream on that platform anymore. So just if you're going to start juggling, always keep that in mind for the future, to keep this longevity wise.
I'll add one more thing too. I actually changed the style of my videos, of my YouTube videos, after I talked to a sponsor. I reached out to a company saying, hey, I want to work with you and things like that. And they looked at my videos and they said, hey, listen, you're not really talking much. You're not explaining much. You don't really have this personality. And that's when I started kind of changing my YouTube videos.
I had that same revelation, and Bob helped me with that. Bob,
started just talking a little bit more, started getting a little bit more comfortable on the camera. And eventually, negotiating with sponsors just became a little bit easier, because I do have that personality now on camera. And honestly, people seem to like it better, because you're actually being honest. You actually just speak your mind and just lay it out there. Yeah.
And the good thing is that we still get to be introverts.
Yeah.
Yep.
And do interviews. When you get the opportunity, when somebody wants to talk to you or list one of your projects or something like that, put yourself out there. It gets your name out there to more than you think. I mean, and some of that stuff is evergreen. Some stuff that, if you did something with Bob Vila back in 2012, that puts a lot of attention on your name years later. So don't forget to make yourself open, and to, you could be working on your projects, and that's great. But don't forget to put yourself out there, especially in new ways. When someone reaches out to you, be receptive of it, because that has opened a lot of doors for me personally.
Good. That's very good information, and interesting. Some things that I hadn't heard about or thought about before. So thank you for that part right there. And with that, it looks like we're at our time. So let me wrap this up by saying thank you to all of you panelists, and thank you to all of the viewers, and for your questions and for your answers. If anyone wants to, I really recommend that you follow everybody that's in this chat on their YouTube channels and on their Instagram and TikTok, which now I'm gonna have to sign up for apparently. But we'll be putting the links to everybody in the descriptions for this. You can also go to the blog post that we did on magazine.com that has everybody's links in there. And also make sure to grab the new issue of Make Magazine, which has everybody's channels and even more information from the conversations that I've been having with everybody through this year in there. So it's a real great source of info to help people get started getting onto YouTube or learn good stories, fun tips. There's a lot more in there. I'm really happy with how it turned out. So thank you everybody also for being part of that article. And with that, we will say goodbye and we'll look forward to seeing you on our next live stream and our next YouTube video, and have a good rest of your week. See you soon.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Caleb. Guys, thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.